You have never been alone within your own mind. From the moment you were born, your consciousness has been shaped by invisible forces, voices from the past, beliefs you didn't choose, ancestral patterns etched into your perception without your awareness. Carl Jung called this the collective unconscious, a reservoir of symbols and experiences shared by all of humanity. Jacobo Grinberg went further. He suggested that the mind not only carries these influences, but also interacts with a larger informational field, an invisible fabric that connects all human experiences. If your identity isn't solely yours, what does that mean for your personal growth? How do familiar archetypes shape your destiny without you realizing it? And most importantly, is there a way to transcend this invisible programming and take control of your own reality? In this video, we will explore the ideas of Jacobo Grinberg and Carl Jung and discover how much family can influence your spiritual and personal development and growth. The human mind is like a field where family influences crystallize into invisible forms. From childhood, we are programmed by words, silences, gestures, and emotional patterns that surround us. But what few realize is that these influences don't disappear over time. They become the hidden structure of our perception, silently shaping our choices, our fears, and our limits. Carl Jung described family complexes as unconscious forces that dominate the psyche without our awareness. These are inherited patterns that determine how we react to the world, often trapping us in cycles of self-sabotage. The absent father, the controlling mother, the weight of unresolved trauma, all of these not only mark childhood, but continue to manifest in adulthood, influencing everything from our relationships to our views on success, happiness, and spirituality. Jacobo Grinberg went further. He argued that these influences are not just psychological, but vibrational. He suggested that the mind isn't isolated within the brain, but connected to an informational field where everything experienced by our ancestors remains present, like a library of memories and patterns that can be accessed or altered. This means that the fears, limiting beliefs, and unresolved pains of your family lineage not only influence your psyche, but also the way you perceive and interact with the reality around you. The big problem is that almost no one notices this hidden mechanism. A man who believes he is not good enough might just be carrying the weight of insecurity that existed in his family system long before he was born. A woman who fears independence might be living the reflection of past generations who were silenced. Patterns of failure, rejection, submission, or fear may not have originated in you. They may have been inherited, reinforced, and now operate in your unconscious as an invisible yet unquestionable truth. Grinberg and Jung converge on an essential point. What you think is your identity might actually be an inherited script, a set of unconscious commands that determine your destiny without you realizing it. And that's the real issue. Because while you believe your limitations are natural, inevitable, or part of your personality, you never question their origin, and even less so, try to change them. But the central question here isn't just recognizing this influence. What truly matters is understanding how to break this cycle, how to rewrite your own story. If the mind can interact with this invisible field, can we modify its structures and thus transform our reality? That's what we're going to talk about now. Few scholars have dared to explore the mysteries of the human mind as deeply as Carl Jung and Jacobo Grinberg. Both realize that consciousness isn't just an individual phenomenon, but a field interconnected with something greater, a sea of ancestral information, archetypes, and psychic patterns that influence our identity in ways we rarely question. Carl Jung, a psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, revealed the existence of the collective unconscious, a reservoir of inherited symbols and memories that influence our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. He demonstrated that family complexes aren't mere psychological traits, but autonomous psychic forces operating in the unconscious, leading us to repeat patterns without awareness. For Jung, understanding these archetypes was essential to achieving individuation, the process of becoming truly authentic by breaking free from the invisible influences that shape us. Jacobo Grinberg, a neuroscientist and consciousness researcher, expanded this view by studying the neuronal field, an informational matrix that connects all minds and human experiences. According to him, our perception of reality isn't fixed. It's a product of the interaction between the mind and this field. Thus, ancestral memories and family influences not only live within us as psychological patterns, but also exist actively on a vibrational level, accessible and even modifiable by consciousness. The importance of these two scholars to the topic is immense. Jung showed us how unconscious family forces operate, while Grinberg demonstrated that these influences can be reprogrammed. Their research offers a path to understanding and transforming inherited patterns, transcending limitations imposed by family, and opening doors to a deeper level of psychic and spiritual freedom. If the mind is a field interconnected with something greater, the big question is, how can we use this knowledge to rewrite our own story? That's what we're going to explore now. The mind isn't born as a blank slate. From the beginning of life, we absorb beliefs, behaviors, and fears that aren't entirely our own. They are fragments inherited from our ancestors, shaped by family culture and reinforced over generations. Jung called this process the internalization of archetypes, while Grinberg revealed that these influences not only fixate in the unconscious, but also connect to an informational field that can be accessed and modified. But how does this affect your life? Imagine growing up in an environment where love is conditioned on success. The child learns that to be accepted, they need to meet external expectations, developing a complex that makes them seek constant validation. Now, imagine a home where there is scarcity and fear of failure. The subconscious absorbs this as an absolute truth, creating financial blocks that persist into adulthood. Your fears, insecurities, and even your desires might not be entirely yours. They were imprinted on you before you could question them. The real question here is, how many of these beliefs still make sense to you today? Grinberg suggested that by expanding the mind's perception, we can alter the way we interact with the field of reality. In other words, transformation begins by identifying and challenging these inherited beliefs. But how do you do that in practice? If the mind is a malleable field, then we need tools to reconfigure it. Both Jung and Grinberg advocated for methods that allow access to deeper levels of consciousness. Here are some essential practices. Journaling, reflective writing. One of the most effective ways to expose unconscious influences is to write them down. Ask yourself, what phrases or limiting beliefs did I hear repeatedly in my childhood? How do these ideas still affect my decisions? Writing allows hidden patterns to surface. Visualization and reprogramming techniques. Grinberg advocated that the mind can alter the structure of the reality it perceives, creating mental images of a new you, free from these unconscious shackles, helps reprogram limiting patterns. Therapy and shadow integration. Jung emphasized that we need to confront the shadow, those aspects of ourselves that we repress out of fear or guilt. Working on this part of the unconscious frees us from the invisible chains that hold us back. These tools are just the beginning. The central point here is to understand that transformation doesn't come from outside, but from within. By reprogramming your mind, you alter the way you interact with reality, and that changes everything. If the mind is an interconnected vibrational field, then the environment you live in and the people around you play a crucial role in your evolution. Grinberg asserted that consciousness can be shaped by interactions with other minds, while Jung highlighted the impact of family complexes on identity formation. People around you. If you surround yourself with negative individuals who reinforce limiting beliefs, your mind will continue to vibrate at that frequency. Often, cutting ties with toxic influences is essential for personal growth. The power of rituals and symbolism. Jung saw rituals as tools to access the unconscious. Grinberg understood them as a way to interact with the informational field. Creating new rituals, like meditative practices or daily affirmations, can help reprogram the mind, physical environment, and its energy. The space you live in influences your mental state. Chaotic and disorganized places reinforce mental patterns of confusion. Cleaning and organizing your environment aren't just aesthetic, they're ways to restructure the mind. If your external reality reflects your internal perception, then transforming your environment and relationships can accelerate your personal evolution. Understanding all this is important, but true transformation happens when you take action. Grinberg showed us that the mind is malleable, but without action, this knowledge doesn't have a real impact. Here are some strategies to implement this change. Set small goals. Instead of trying to change everything at once, choose one family pattern you want to break. It could be a fear, a behavior, or a limiting belief. Create a mental reprogramming routine. Techniques like affirmations, visualizations, and journaling help undo unconscious patterns and create new neural pathways. Exposure to the new. To reconfigure the mind, you need to present it with new possibilities. Reading about new ideas, meeting new people, and challenging yourself to step out of your comfort zone are ways to expand your perception. Practice questioning. Whenever a limiting thought arises, ask yourself, does this belief really belong to me, or is it something I absorbed from my environment? Change begins with awareness and action. You don't need to carry the weight of your ancestry as a burden. If the mind is a field, then you have the power to rewrite it. Imagine a bird that has spent its entire life in a cage. Even when the door is open, it hesitates to leave. It has learned that the world outside the cage is dangerous, that it can't trust its own wings. But is that belief truly its own? Or was it something taught to it? Now look at your own life. How many times have you hesitated to take a step forward, to make a different decision, to pursue something you truly desire because something inside you said it wasn't possible? The fear of failure, insecurity, the feeling that you need others' validation. All of this might just be echoes of your lineage, reflections of pains and limitations passed down through generations without being questioned. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Jacobo Grinberg went further and showed that the reality we perceive isn't fixed. It's a mental construct that can be altered. The story of who you are doesn't have to be an automatic repetition of what came before. You are not just an heir to family traumas and beliefs. You are a creator of your own reality. The first step to transformation is recognizing that this field of information can be modified. The second is to act upon it. What would happen if you decided to rewrite the script? If you chose to challenge those beliefs that were imprinted on you without your permission? If you understood that your mind isn't a prison, but a tool to access deeper levels of consciousness and existence? The bird can stay in the cage, or it can fly. The only difference lies in what it believes to be true. Now that you understand how the mind can be trapped by unconscious family patterns, the most important question arises: what will you do with this knowledge? Knowing that your reality was shaped by inherited beliefs is a powerful first step, but true transformation happens when you decide to act. Carl Jung showed us that individuation, the process of becoming who we truly are, requires the courage to confront what imprisons us. Jacobo Grinberg revealed that our perception of reality can be altered when we understand how to interact with the mind's informational field. So, I challenge you now, look at your life and identify a pattern that doesn't belong to you, but still governs your decisions. It could be an irrational fear, a belief about money, a repetitive behavior in your relationships. Choose just one. Now ask yourself, if I hadn't inherited this belief, how would my life be different? And more importantly, what can I do today to start breaking this cycle? Write in the comments. Share this reflection. Making the unconscious conscious requires exposure, requires verbalization. This is the first step to reprogramming your mind and transforming your perception of reality. If this content resonated with you, don't stop here. Continue exploring, questioning, applying. And remember, you don't need to carry the past as a weight. You can use it as a catalyst to awaken something much greater within yourself. The human mind is a profound mystery, but one thing is certain: you don't have to be a prisoner of what you inherited. What Jung called the collective unconscious and Grinberg described as an informational field are, in fact, hidden maps of your own existence. Maps that you can decipher and modify. Family influence is inevitable, but not immutable. You can choose to carry the weights of the past or use them as tools to grow. Transformation doesn't happen when you discover you're stuck in invisible patterns. It happens when you decide to break free from them. If this video made you reflect, don't let it be just another piece of information stored in your unconscious. Apply it, question it, investigate it. Knowledge only has power when it's used to change how you see yourself and the world around you. And remember, the mind doesn't end where your body begins. It expands beyond what we've been taught to believe. It's up to you to explore this territory and discover how far you can go. See you in the next video.